Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are going way back to August 1945 to explore the final thunderous moments of World War II and the dawn of the atomic age.
So, let's set the scene. It's August 1945. Japan is completely exhausted. Its people are starving, and yet its military spirit feels unbreakable. In the skies, American B-29s are this constant, terrifying presence, turning cities built of wood and paper into just giant bonfires.
To really get what happened, we have to look beyond just the military action. This was a true collision point, where the most advanced science of the era ran headfirst into a nation's primal instinct for survival. It's a story of decisions made in quiet, air-conditioned offices that would forever, and I mean forever, alter reality for millions of people.
We're going to explore this whole story as two ticking clocks, each one counting down on these parallel tracks, both of them just destined for a devastating intersection. So, with that, let's start the first clock.
Section 1. The Thunder of the End. Right here, we're going to track two immense forces on their unavoidable collision course.
So our first clock starts ticking in America. And it's not driven by a desire for some new powerful weapon, but by this paralyzing fear. A fear that Nazi Germany would build an atomic bomb first. It was a race against a potential Nazi apocalypse.
I mean, just look at this timeline. This shows an unprecedented mobilization of science and industry. It was like a secret empire, built for a single purpose. From separating uranium isotopes in these massive factories in Tennessee to creating plutonium in Washington state, this was a civilization-level effort. The cost of the project was just staggering for the time, and it employed over 130,000 people. And here's the incredible part. Most of them had absolutely no idea what they were building. They were refining the fuel for the end of the world without even knowing it. When he saw that first terrible dawn out in the New Mexico desert, the project's lead scientist, J. Robert Oppenheimer, knew what they had done. He knew they'd unleashed a power that was previously reserved only for gods. The flash was brighter than any sun. The American atomic clock was now ticking very, very loudly. Okay, now let's turn to our second clock. While America was busy harnessing the atom, Japan was hardening itself into a fortress of pure desperation. The nation was materially ruined, its navy was at the bottom of the sea, but its spirit was unyielding. Their strategy was called Ketsu-Go, or Operation Decisive. Now, the goal wasn't to win, not really. It was to make an invasion so incredibly bloody that the Allies would offer a negotiated peace. The unofficial slogan was, "The glorious death of 100 million." And believe me, this was not just talk. The government was training civilians, women and children included, to charge American soldiers with sharpened bamboo spears.
Now look at this. What's so striking here is how this plan for total national resistance completely erases the line between soldier and civilian. You can see roles assigned to men, women, even students. The entire population was going to become a defensive weapon.
So for President Truman, looking at the brutal fighting on islands like Okinawa, where defenders fought to the last man, these numbers represented an unthinkable butcher's bill. So the crucial point is that this calculus, this absolute fear of a catastrophic invasion, framed his entire decision-making process.
Section 4. Collision Course. In August of 1945, these two clocks finally collided. The events of just a handful of days would reshape our world forever.
At 8:15 in the morning, the world's first atomic attack vaporizes the city center. A fireball, 300 meters in diameter, incinerates tens of thousands of people in a microsecond, leaving only their shadows burned onto concrete walls.
This was the strategic death blow. Japan's leaders had been desperately hoping the Soviets would mediate a peace deal for them. Instead, the Red Army invaded Manchuria, and Japan was suddenly facing a two-front war against the world's emerging superpowers. The pincer was closing. The second mission was just plagued with problems. Everything from a faulty fuel pump to bad weather over the primary target, but at the last second, a break in the clouds over the alternate target, Nagasaki, sealed the city's fate. The bomb exploded over the industrial valley, killing tens of thousands, instantly.
The selection of these targets was a chillingly methodical process. As you can see from the reasoning, the committee wanted cities that were relatively untouched so they could accurately measure the weapon's destructive power. Hiroshima, for example, was chosen partly because its surrounding mountains would contain and focus the blast.
And this detail just brilliantly illustrates the strange mix of cold calculation and human intervention that characterized these final days. The fate of a city, the cultural heart of an entire nation, was saved because of a memory from one man's honeymoon.
Okay, Section 5, the impossible surrender. Even after 2 atomic bombs and a Soviet invasion, surrender was not a given. Japan's government was paralyzed, totally deadlocked between the peace seekers and the military hardliners who refused to give in.
And this slide, it really captures the core of a debate that continues to this day. On one side, you have the argument of grim necessity that the bombs saved millions of lives by preventing an invasion. On the other, you have the revisionist view that it was a geopolitical power play aimed at intimidating the Soviets and that Japan was already on the verge of surrender anyway.
In these frantic hours, Japan's fate hung by a thread. After the emperor made the sacred decision to surrender, a group of radical officers staged a coup. Had they found and destroyed that recording, the war would have continued, and a third bomb, which was being readied, would have likely fallen on Tokyo.
Section 6. The Echo of the Bomb. The coup failed. The emperor's voice was heard across Japan for the very first time in history, and the war finally ended. But the echo of those bombs would define the terrifying new world they had created.
You know, the crucial takeaway here is this powerful duality. Judged through the lens of 1945, the bombs were seen by many as a necessary evil to end a horrific war. But they were also the terrifying beginning of a new age. The bombings established what's known as the nuclear taboo, the unspoken global agreement that these weapons are simply too horrible to ever be used again.
And this question on the screen is the ultimate legacy of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It isn't just a piece of history. It is a permanent warning about the immense burden that comes with our own genius, a question we still have to answer every single day.